This is Part 2, Episode 73. Thus, Hui Yuhao did not care how weak his passageways were, he immediately tried to connect his spiritual power with the soul power in his dantian. Then, he forced his soul power to circulate through his body. He wanted to regain autonomy of his body, so he had to allow his soul energy to flow through his body. Only then could he suppress the origin energy present within him. This was a painful process. As his soul energy rose in his body, he had to endure a pain that was akin to being pierced by 10,000 needles. Even more beads of sweat dripped from his body. The mattress underneath him was almost completely soaked. Wang Dong continually wiped him down with towels. Elder Zhuang and Elder Xian observed him carefully from the side. A look of admiration slowly appeared in Elder Zhuang's eyes. He turned to look at Elder Xian and nodded, saying, "No wonder Elder Mu chose this child. Among all the soul masters I've seen, he has the strongest will. He can bear such intense pain," and he did not utter a single word throughout the entire treatment. "What a lad." Elder Xian nodded too and said, "Looking at him now makes me relieved. He really is like an indestructible cockroach. As long as he can recover, he'll be even stronger than before. The origin energy in his body is vast, indeed. If he can absorb all of it, it'll surely aid his cultivation in the future. For a soul master with an ultimate soul, this increase would be as fast as a rocket. It seems like he is growing up much faster than we had expected." Elder Zhuang chortled, "Just don't force him to grow up quicker than usual. For him, we should protect him well. He's our hope for the future. As long as the academy has him, we have nothing to worry about for the next 100 years. Elder Xian snorted, "If this bastard gives me any more problems in the future, I'll tie him to the main pillar of the Sea God's pavilion so that he can't run anywhere." After he said that, he could not help but laugh too. Indeed, the deeper the love, the stricter the treatment. Hui Yuhao's soul power slowly rose through his body, and his passageways slowly opened up. Under his careful guidance, which was derived from his control over his spiritual power, he inserted the origin energy of ultimate ice into his legs, as he continued to let his soul power rise through his body. Even the naked eye could see that icy blue energy creeping over his legs. Hui Yuhao's body trembled slightly, but he was now sweating much less. His legs experienced the greatest change. Whenever sweat appeared, it would freeze over. As Hui Yuhao came up with his recovery plan, he came to a difficult decision after much analysis. The ice-type origin energy of heaven and earth in his body was way too powerful, to the point where his soul power could not operate as usual with its presence. All his soul power could do was circulate through his body at a sluggish pace. Even if his body made a complete recovery, his cultivation would only be at the level of a 3-ringed soul master. This was unacceptable. Even though he was severely injured, he still cared about the tournament. As the main player of his team, how could he not take part? Hence, he thought of a plan, which was to send all the origin energy of heaven and earth into his legs. What shocked Elder Xian and Elder Zhuang was the fact that Wang Dong did not try to stop him. She said that she would not go against any of his decisions. Her mindset was simple. After this incident, Hui Yuhao and her were one. If Hui Yuhao was fine, then she would be fine. Whatever happened to him, she would accompany him. Furthermore, she understood his personality too well. If he did not take part in this tournament, he would regret it for the rest of his life. This was not something that Wang Dong wanted to see. Hui Yuhao also promised her that after the tournament, he would retrieve the origin energy of heaven and earth from his legs and let it dissipate through his body. There should be no problem with just storing it there for a few months. At last, Elder Xian agreed. The origin energy of ultimate ice flowed continually into his legs. As the soul power from Hui Yuhao's dantian rose, it soon spread throughout his body, and he could move the origin energy even more quickly. After all, the origin energy was an object without consciousness. Coupled with the fact that Hui Yuhao's second martial soul was ultimate ice, it was still possible for him to manipulate it. After a few minutes passed, Hui Yuhao's legs became stranger and stranger. Initially, they were pale white. Then, they turned light blue. This shade of blue darkened continuously, until finally, they turned dark blue. However, at this moment, Hui Yuhao frowned. "Yuhao, what's wrong?" Elder Xian asked in a low voice. Hui Yuhao shook his head and said, "I can't insert anymore. The passageways in my legs cannot take anymore. There would be complications." "There's more?" Elder Xian asked in shock. Hui Yuhao said, "Not much, our estimate was correct. Initially, my legs should have been able to take the compressed origin energy of heaven and earth. However, here's the problem. As I move the origin energy of heaven and earth toward my legs, the part that is in my torso has started to spill out as well. Originally, it was suppressed within my soul bones, but now, some of it has flowed out. My legs can't take this extra soul power. Furthermore, This origin energy has been dissipated into my most important passageways, and it'll severely affect my recovery. Elder Xian said, what can we do? If you can't take it anymore, you should stop. Take your time to recover, and don't fret so much about the competition. No, I have to represent the Tang sect. Hui Yuhao said with certainty. Then, he closed his eyes once more, and he could clearly see that underneath his skin, strands of blue energy were flowing toward his left arm. Since my legs can't take any more, I shall give up an arm. The reason why he chose his left arm over his right was because the Ice Jade Scorpion left arm bone was in his left arm. It would help in compressing and absorbing the origin energy of heaven and earth. Wang Donga covered her face with her hands. She clearly knew that like this, Hui Yuhao could only move his head, his right arm, and his torso. He was like a cripple who had lost 3 of his limbs. All of this was because of her. As she sent Elder Zhuang out, Wang Donga asked carefully if there was anything she had to take note of while caring for him. Only then did she return to the room. The moment she entered, she could not help but dash to the side of the bed and jump into his embrace. Hui Yuhao used his only movable hand, which was still trembling, to hold her by her slim waist. Silly girl, can't you see that I'm better now? You should be happy. Don't cry, this is all thanks to your meticulous care. However, you've gotten skinnier. Look at you, you're a bag of bones. You must stay healthy so that you can care for me. Yes, yes. Wang Donga agreed non-stop. However, tears flowed down her cheeks like a broken necklace of pearls. Donga, can I explain something about Chioa to you? Hui Yuhao asked. He felt that he should tell Donga some things. For example, the fact that they could fuse their martial souls. This would prevent a future misunderstanding from arising. Wang Donga shook her head vigorously. From his embrace, she sat up and looked at him. They were only inches apart. She said tearfully, Yuhao, I don't want to or need to hear any explanation. After today, no matter what happens, I'll trust you completely. You've already proven to me that you are the one who loves me more than anyone else in the world. Hui Yuhao could not help but laugh. Saying that will make your parents sad. Wang Donga said, it's different. How can parental love compare with how you treat me? Furthermore, after so many years, they have never visited me once. Hui Yuhao quickly changed the topic as he said, all right, don't cry. Help me lay down to rest. The entire treatment had been a test of his will. Had it been anyone else, they would have gone crazy from the pain. However, Hui Yuhao endured it all. Still, he was drained from the whole ordeal. Yes, Wang Donga helped him lay down. From that day on, Hui Yuhao's recovery was well on track. With Wang Donga's help, he spent another 3 days opening all the blocked passageways in his body. Then, he started to regain his bodily functions. Once the other 5 of Shrek's 7 monsters learned that he could take part in the competition, they were all overjoyed. With Hui Yuhao and Wang Donga back, they were truly the Shrek's 7 monsters. A wooden wheelchair, made entirely from the golden tree, was delivered to Hui Yuhao by Elder Xian. While Elder Xian still wore an unpleasant face on his face, and he showed no sign of forgiveness toward Hui Yuhao, the latter still remembered his care and concern for him. The Continental Elite Youth Soul Master Tournament drew closer. The Tang Sect Conference Hall. Led by Bei Bei, the other members of Shrek's 7 monsters reached the place. Other than the 7 of them, Xian Ziwen, who was now the vice sect leader and in charge of soul tool research, Mo Xian, and Nana, who was a close combat soul engineer who possessed the netherworld martial soul, were there too, along with Ji Juechen, Jing Xian, and the higher echelons of the Tang sect. Originally, Bei Bei had planned to use this opportunity to let Hui Yuhao resume his place in the Sea God's Pavilion. However, Hui Yuhao hinted strongly to Bei Bei that he was against this plan. The reason for his rejection was simple. He was confident that he could regain his place in the Sea God's Pavilion through his own merit. For the Tang sect, this would mean that they would have 2 representatives at the conference table. Was that not a better thing? At last, Bei Bei was chosen as the representative to take part in the conferences in the Sea God's Pavilion. The Tang sect and Shrek Academy were linked intimately, just like that. The underground factory was massive. Initially, the construction of the illustrious Virtue Hall took almost 10 years to complete. If the underground factory of the Tang sect took 10 years, it would be too long. At this time, the power of Shrek Academy was revealed, shocking even Xian Ziwen. Shrek Academy sent 20 more people to assist with the construction. With the inclusion of this group, Xian Ziwen was stunned on the day he met them. It was then that he discovered the difference between a soul engineer and a soul master. The 20 people sent by Shrek Academy were led by Elder Xian. They were all Earth-type soul masters. Following that, Elder Xian showed Xian Ziwen the terrifying might of the godly Dao Tai Bu. In only one day, a huge underground cavern was excavated by Elder Xian using his impressive power. Furthermore, he did not actually dig up the ground to be moved elsewhere. All of the soil was compressed into the walls of the hole with his soul power. This caused the cavern to be extremely sturdy, with very strong walls. One must know that the process of excavating a cavern was immensely difficult. When the illustrious Virtue Hall was first built, not only did the builders have to consider the underground situation, but its builders were all ordinary mortals, and they were in no rush for time. Hence, they took nearly half a year to excavate it. Then, they still had to fortify its walls. This took almost another year. Yet Elder Xian only took a single day to do all of this himself. Once done, Elder Xian handed the other Earth-type Soul Masters over to Xian Zuan as he went off to drink more wine. Among these Earth-type Soul Masters with martial souls, 3 of them were title Doluor, 6 of them were Soul Doluor, and the rest were all at least Soul Emperors. Some of them were teachers, and some of them were students of the inner courtyard. Between them, they only needed 20 days before the Tang sect's underground factory was completed. This included ventilation, water supply, and other basic infrastructure. Now, they only had to deal with the installation of soul lamps, of course. All this was a side thought to the Shrek's 7 monsters, because they would soon leave for the tournament. The conference right now was their last before the tournament. Bei Bei said, "Teacher Xian, we'll leave the underground factory to you." "Yes," Xian Zuan replied. His head was lowered, and no one knew what he was thinking. Hui Yuhao, who was sitting next to him, could see that Teacher Xian's eyes were fire-red and slightly bloodshot. A new illustrious Virtue Hall would be recreated, with him at its helm. Initially, when this idea was first proposed, Xian Zuan was so excited he almost leapt into the air. To a soul engineer, what was more important than making soul tools? Just for this chance, he promised to lecture once a week at Shrek Academy. At this time, he was probably thinking of a way to come up with new diagrams for soul tools. Bei Bei said, "We'll leave tomorrow. The 7 of us will go, along with Nunna. Hence, 8 of us will be setting out. Brother Ji, Brother Mo, Sister Xian, please guard the Tang sect. A new batch of Zhuge divine crossbow cannons will be installed in Shrek City. Other than stationary soul cannons, we'll stop manufacturing other types of soul tools so we can allow for the construction of the factory. We'll be back in 6 weeks at the least, and 2 months at the most. Hence, I trust everyone here to manage the sect in our absence." No, just as Bei Bei finished speaking, there was opposition. The speaker was Jing Xian. "Sister Xian, what problem do you have?" Bei Bei asked. Jing Xian looked at Ji Juechen, who was by her side, and said, "We want to go to the tournament too." Bei Bei was stunned as he said, "However, aren't you above the age limit?" Both Jing Xian and Ji Juechen were more than 20 years old, which was the tournament's age limit. Jing Xian snorted and said, "So what? There will be many soul masters gathered there. Furthermore, we are both familiar with Radiant City. If we go, we can help you out with some things, and even protect you." Hui Yuhao laughed, "Protect us? I think the 2 of you are going there to cause trouble." He knew them too well. If they went to Radiant City, they would look for people to fight to improve themselves. Jing Xian's face turned red, and she said, "So what? It's such a good chance, we won't miss it. Furthermore, look at yourself. You need someone to push your wheelchair, right?" "Right. I'll do it," Ji Juechen said in a straightforward manner. His eyes revealed his determination to everyone. The 2 of them had given Bei Bei a lot of trouble. Since they had joined the Tang sect, there was not a single moment when they were idle. Sometimes they would be looking for a challenge, and at other times, they would be trying to spar. Everyone tried to hide from them, especially Ji Juechen. As his sword intent became more powerful, even Bei Bei and Shu Sansha found it hard to beat him. Hui Yuhao was no longer scared of the 2 of them. With his current condition, Ji Juechen and Jing Xian would not fight him. Shrek Academy, Sea God's Pavilion, Inner Courtyard. Boom. A golden light flashed past, like a dragon turning itself mid-flight. It blasted Dai Huabin straight on. Freeonoval.co. Wang Qiuer retrieved her golden dragon spear, and stared harshly at him as she said, "With your current condition, you want to beat Hui Yuhao. Even with one hand, he can still take care of you." Dai Huabin grit his teeth, and climbed up from the ground. There was no rage in his eyes, only pure determination. He roared, once more. After Wang Qiuer had returned, Shrek Academy started to conduct special training for this bunch. Since they had no teacher, Wang Qiuer had become their demonic training instructor over the first few days. Her method was simple and violent. They fought. One-on-one sparring, and then, team matches. At the start, many of them were unwilling to listen to her. However, after Wang Qiuer was able to defeat the entire team by herself, they were all convinced. In 2 months, under Wang Qiuer's leadership, everyone's combat ability increased exponentially. In particular, their will to fight had been greatly strengthened. Among them, Dai Huabin and Wu Feng showed the greatest increase. The two of them had a single-minded obsession with Hu Yuhao, and hence, Wang Chua continually used Hu Yuhao to stimulate them. She even told them that Hu Yuhao was paralyzed because of his accident, but even so, he only needed one hand, and just one hand, to thrash them. Wu Feng and Dai Huabin were naturally provoked by this statement. They did not believe it. Then, they were defeated by Wang Chua, who stood still and used only one hand. From that moment, the two of them started to train like crazy. They seemed to experience no fatigue. Under such torturous training, their cultivation improved tremendously, and they showed improvements in every aspect. It was almost time to leave. While they knew that in the face of Shrek's 7 monsters, their hopes of victory were still slim, they had undergone 2 months of hellish training under Wang Chua. This made them much more resilient and determined to fight. After she defeated Dai Huabin once more, Wang Chua put away her golden dragon spear, and said in a low voice, "That's all for today. Go back and rest, we'll set off tomorrow." When she said that, everyone could not help but sigh in relief. Dai Huabin, who lay on the ground, was gulping in big breaths of air. His body ached all over. However, he still felt a sense of accomplishment. He forced himself off the ground and looked at Wang Chua's disappearing form. An intensely hot light flashed in his eyes. "Elder sister, wait," Ju Sikhen said as he ran after Wang Chua. Wang Chua stopped, turned her head and looked at him and said, "What?" Ju Sikhen giggled, "Elder sister, are we leaving with our class monitor's team?" Wang Chua's face turned cold, and she said, "Do you want to leave with them?" Ju Sikhen coughed. His perceptive abilities were strong. He instantly felt that there was something amiss about Wang Chua's emotions, and he hurriedly said, No, I'm just asking casually. I heard that Hu Yuhao has been severely injured. We want to visit him, but the Sea God's Pavilion is off limits to us." Wang Chua snorted coldly, "He is he, and we are we. We'll go by ourselves." After she said that, she turned to leave without turning her head. When he looked at Wang Chua's disappearing form, Ju Sikhen could not help but feel slightly depressed. In the past few days, whenever they mentioned anything about Hu Yuhao, Wang Chua would become extremely temperamental. No one knew why, or what the relationship between their class monitor and her was. Dawn, Shrek City, the Tang sect. Shrek's 7 monsters, all of whom were clad lightly, and Nana, Ji Juechen, and Jing Xian left through the main door. Xianzuan, who was in charge of looking after the sect in their absence, did not accompany them. He was still busy with the secret factory. Under this rather unceremonious atmosphere, the entire group headed toward the west gate of Shrek Academy. Hu Yuhao sat in the wheelchair made from the golden tree. The wheelchair was extremely simplistic, but Elder Xian's craftsmanship was decent. It was simple, but efficient. There was a special cushion near the waist, and the entire wheelchair was made from a few pieces of wood glued together. It was extremely smooth, and one would not get tired of sitting in it. One should not underestimate the materials used. The golden tree in Shrek Academy was one of the last golden trees on the entire continent. While it was not the only one left, it was the biggest. 1,000 years ago, the school ruled that no one was allowed to cut the tree down. It was the center and treasure of the academy. Hu Yuhao chuckled and said, "I still have some energy to spare." He. Jing Xian sighed and said, "I miss the days when we sparred." Hu Yuhao looked bewildered as he replied, "I never imagined that Sister Xian was a masochist. You like being beaten by me?" "You," Jing Xian said in anger, "you heartless bastard. I'm showing you care and concern right now. How dare you make fun of me? Donga, keep him in check." Wang Donga smiled slightly and said, "He's already in this state, what else can I do? Sister Xian, he's mentally well, please don't worry so much." Jing Xian looked in surprise at this smart lass as she nodded and said, "Actually, I was just thinking of when we could fight again." Hu Yuhao sighed and replied, "Actually, even with one hand, I can still give you the thrill of being tortured." Jing Xian snorted, "I shan't talk with a cripple anymore." With that, she walked away, leaving a stunned-looking Hu Yuhao behind. A huge hand pressed down on Hu Yuhao's shoulder, and a low voice sounded, "Get well soon, I'm waiting for you." Hu Yuhao did not turn his head around. However, he could feel a rare tinge of emotion in Ji's voice, which was usually reserved for his sword. A bitter smile emerged on his face as he said, "Brother Ji, don't you think Donga should be the one saying that to me?" Wang Donga laughed. Ji Juechen's face froze over. The muscles in his face twitched. Then, he continued pushing the wheelchair silently. Wang Donga gently touched Hu Yuhao's right hand and asked in a low voice, "Do you want some water?" Hu Yuhao replied, "Didn't we drink some before we left?" "Donga, I'm fine, really. When will you guys believe that I'm still capable in spite of my disability?" Jing Xian, who was ahead of him, turned around. Her face showed contempt as she said, "A cripple is a cripple. How can you be capable? Other than spiritual detection, what else can you do?" Hui Yuhao sighed and said, "Actually, I can do many things. Do you know what it means to turn misfortune into fortune?" Jing Ziyan wanted to rebut him immediately. However, her words stopped at the tip of her tongue. Her eyes widened, and she stared at shock at what was happening in front of her. Hui Yuhao, Wang Donga, and Ji Juechen, all of whom were walking behind her, suddenly disappeared in a flash of light. They appeared to have vanished completely. "What's going on? Where's Hui Yuhao and the rest?" Jing Ziyan exclaimed in surprise. This caught the attention of the rest. Everyone turned their heads. The three of them were indeed gone. At this moment, the air distorted, and Hui Yuhao and the three of them appeared once again. They were walking forward normally. It was as if Jing Ziyan had been momentarily blinded. "What trick is this? I don't recall you having any soul skill that allows you to camouflage others." Jing Ziyan exclaimed in shock. Concealing oneself was no big deal. Many soul masters had similar soul skills. However, for Hui Yuhao to conceal two other people along with him, that was rather unbelievable. Group concealment was a powerful soul skill that no one had ever heard of. Hui Yuhao looked into the sky, sighed, and said, "This is called skill." Jing Ziyan looked at him coolly and said, "Hui Yuhao, stop acting big. We're still friends." Furthermore, Xian Zuan had made a large flying-type soul tool that could carry many people at once, made to Hui Yuhao's specifications. "All right, we've left the city. Sister Ziyan, let's spar, let's spar." Ji Juechen, who was pushing his wheelchair from behind, froze. "Yuhao, are you serious?" While Jing Ziyan was weaker than Bei Bei, Shu Sansha, and the rest, she was still a soul emperor in her own right. Her martial soul might not be terribly powerful, but when combined with her soul tools, her battling abilities could not be underestimated. If Hui Yuhao was uninjured, there was a chance that he could still beat her. However, in his current state, movement was difficult, so how could he fight her? Hui Yuhao nodded and he looked at Jing Ziyan and said, "Of course I'm serious." "Sister Ziyan, are you scared?" Jing Ziyan said unkindly, "Scared of you? How can I be scared of you in this state? I don't want to bully a cripple." Hui Yuhao said angrily, "A temporary cripple, not a cripple. Come, hurry up, don't waste everyone's time. Has anyone placed bets?" "I'll be the bookie." Shu Sansha rushed forward excitedly, almost bouncing. Jiang Nan followed next to him. When she heard what he said, she pinched his waist hard. "You're heartless indeed. Yuhao is in this state, and all you can do is stir up even more trouble. Yuhao, stop fooling around. We'll set off now. We all know you're capable." Hui Yuhao smiled bitterly and said, "Fourth sister, from your words, I know that you don't expect much from me. Look, I think third brother understands me better." In fact, since his recuperation had begun, he had not cultivated with his teammates. All he had been doing was recovering by himself at home. Coupled with the fact that only one of his four limbs could move, it was normal for his teammates to doubt his abilities. This was why he was set on challenging Jing Ziyan. "If my teammates don't trust me, then, what if something goes wrong during the competition? Even Bei Bei won't let me compete." Jing Ziyan said unpleasantly, "You're not joking. Donga, take good care of him." She completely ignored Hui Yuhao's provocation and turned to leave. Hui Yuhao sighed helplessly. Following that, he narrowed his eyes, and a ray of purple light flashed from his pupils. At this moment, the blurry scene around her disappeared. They returned to the west gate of Shrek City. Everyone was not far from where she stood. However, they all looked at her in shock. The icy-cold feeling disappeared, and a tone of jest sounded, It's so simple. No wonder you don't want to fight with me. This is why you can't match me." Jing Ziyan turned around to look. She realized that the person next to her was not Ji Juechen, but Hui Yuhao instead. He slowly retracted a dark golden blade that had emerged from his finger. The blade was 6 meters long. Under the bright sunlight, it was exceptionally terrifying. How did you do that?" Jing Ziyan asked in shock. Hui Yuhao looked into the sky and said, "I can't reveal this secret, no. Jing Ziyan said angrily, "Rubbish, I was ambushed by you. If you have the guts, let's have a one-on-one fight." Hui Yuhao's reply shocked her. "Okay." As he said that, he lifted his right hand at Jing Ziyan once more. This time, Jing Ziyan did not dare to be careless. She leapt back, and as she did so, her entire body turned into a ball of smoke in mid-air, which slowly started to expand. Everyone else who had thought that Hui Yuhao was just joking now looked at him solemnly with varying expressions in their eyes. With only one arm, how could he beat Jing Ziyan? At this moment, she realized that Hui Yuhao's gaze had turned warmer. His eyes brimmed with adoration and a warm love. In his eyes, Wang Donga could see her own figure. Just by noticing this, Wang Donga could clearly sense that her heart was slowly connecting with that of Hui Yuhao. An unspeakably deep bond encircled the two of them. Why was Hui Yuhao looking at Wang Donga? Everyone was thinking the same thing in their minds. Then, the answer revealed itself. The wheelchair under Hui Yuhao started to shine, and a dazzling golden light flashed. Thick light-type energy started to permeate his surroundings. Following that, a golden figure started to appear behind him. Hui Yuhao was bathed in a golden light. Wasn't the figure behind him Wang Donga? Here, he formed a Wang Donga purely from his spiritual power. Her facial expression and the look in her eyes resembled Wang Donga perfectly. Then, Hui Yuhao gently reached out with his palm, and the projection of Wang Donga behind him did the same. The two figures instantly merged into one. A terrifying intention was sent flying to the front. The purple clouds, which had spread apart, slowly came together. It was as if someone was throttling them. Then, they vanished, and Jing Ziyan appeared before everyone with a pale face. Hui Yuhao's hand remained in mid-air, but he did not continue reaching out. An intense golden light started to form in the center of his palm. Do you still want to continue? Hui Yuhao asked softly. Jing Ziyan's forehead was laced with sweat. The short knives in her hands were trembling. She could not find the guts to fight Hui Yuhao. This was the first time she had experienced something like this. It was similar to facing Ji Juechen's sword intent. However, while Juechen's sword intent was in a continual process of betterment, which showed that there were still flaws, the intent that Hui Yuhao released appeared perfect to her. This intention was used completely on her. At this moment, Jing Ziyan felt as if 10,000 tsunami waves were hurtling toward her. Her soul rings lost their functionality in that moment, and she felt her heart being squeezed by a huge hand. This moment of tightness caused her to abandon her soul skill. Before Hui Yuhao, as she looked at his palm, she only felt immense fear. What power is this? Why does it exert such a powerful suppression? Everyone started to crowd around next to Hui Yuhao. Bei Bei said nothing, he just smiled and gave Hui Yuhao a thumbs up. He Kai-tu sighed in admiration, little brother, you are our secret weapon indeed. Shu Sancha said pensively, your spiritual power has increased exponentially. Not bad, not bad. He, your invisibility ability is derived from your second soul skill, right? Hui Yuhao laughed, but said nothing. Jiang Nan asked curiously, what's its radius? Hui Yuhao thought for a while and replied, the bigger the radius, the faster my spiritual power will deplete. I can maintain a 50-meter radius for about 10 minutes. For every half-meter radius less, I can maintain it for 1 more minute. Xiao Xiao said in shock, doesn't this mean that when our opponents fight us, they won't be able to see us at all? Hui Yuhao chortled and replied, it's not that strong, but it can affect their judgment. Jing Ziyan then asked, just now, what ability did you use to blind me? Hui Yuhao scratched his head and said, let me keep some secrets to myself. Like this, when we face our enemies, we can surprise them. Bei Bei smiled and said, yes, everyone, stop asking. Prepare to depart. Yuhao, you have given us all a big surprise. Hui Yuhao chortled and said, elder brother, if I were useless, why would I still want to compete? I don't wish to be a burden. The theme of the new Continental Elite Youth Soul Master Tournament was Return. This was because a long time ago, this historic tournament only allowed sects to take part. In the past millennia, its scale had decreased, to the point where it only allowed schools to take part. This time, the Sun Moon Empire, the tournament's organizer, suggested the change, and the other countries agreed to it, deciding to restore the original criteria for the tournament. They increased the number of participating sects, and changed the rules of the tournament. Doing so massively increased the scale of the competition. In the continent, there were considerably more sects than schools. For the schools, by doing well in the tournament, they could make a good name for themselves and recruit more students. This was also good for their future development. The same logic applied to the sects. The development of any sect required talents. The more talented an individual was, the more likely it was that they would join a top-notch sect. After the tournament's rules changed, almost 2/3 of the sects on the continent chose to take part. Radiant City, Sun Moon Empire's Imperial Palace, a backyard garden. A wheelchair was moving slowly on the quartzite path in the garden. There were different types of plants planted here, every region of the garden was perfectly designed. There was a small waterfall atop a sculpted hill, an imperial painting of a bouquet of flowers and huge, tall trees. The entire backyard garden felt like a beautiful forest. How's my father? Shu Tianran's eyes were shut. There was a blanket on his thighs, and he appeared very relaxed. Ju Zi was the one pushing his wheelchair. Juzi was clad in a long, yellow dress today, which accentuated her delicate white skin. She looked classy and elegant. She exuded a much more mature aura than before. A wise look flashed across her eyes. I'm afraid he's nearing his end. The imperial physician said that he often passes out and loses consciousness these days, Juzi said softly. Xu Qianran continued to close his eyes. It was as if he was unrelated to the ailing old man that Juzi was talking about. My father has always been very cautious and conscientious. He does not aim to acquire merit, but only hopes to avoid mistakes. He has missed out on great opportunities. When we look back in the future, he will only be regarded as an ordinary emperor. What's the reaction of the military? Juzi said, they are very calm. Ever since we took control of the garrison, opposition from the military has disappeared. At least 2/5 of the empire's military is directly under our control now. Out of the other 3/5 of the military, around 2/3 of them are still monitoring the situation, or are loyal only to the emperor. Once you succeed the throne, I believe they will join your side. As for the last 1/5, they are military officers at the borders. Some of them have been brought over by other princes, while some were your enemies in the past. Xu Qianran gave a half smile. His smile was very nice, but for some reason, Juzi felt very cold in her heart when she saw this smile. That was because she was clear that Xu Qianran was ready to kill when he revealed such an expression. Xu Qianran smiled as he said, no rush. When I succeed the throne, you can make a trip if they are still unwilling to budge. Juzi shuddered a little, but still nodded and said, okay. Juzi understood Xu Qianran's character very well. He was very ambitious. There was only one goal in his life, to rule the entire Doluo continent. Furthermore, he was intelligent, had great tolerance and was quite vicious. Although he was disabled, he had all the qualities needed to succeed. However, he became colder and more merciless after he lost his legs and his manly ability. Even Juzi didn't dare to get close to him when he revealed his violent and hostile aura sometimes. He wasn't just an anti-hero, Juzi even believed he was a maniac at times. However, he was an extremely intelligent maniac. But she wanted revenge, and thus she needed the support of a maniac like him. However, she didn't want to follow in his footsteps. That was why she acted very cautiously in front of him, concealing her true feelings very well. Furthermore, there was another person in her heart along with her true feelings. This person was a youth who had once suffered grave injuries because of her. The preparations for the tournament should be done, right? Did Hallmaster Hong Chen report back? Xu Qianran continued asking. Juzi had become his most important intelligence officer. There was one thing that Xu Qianran didn't exaggerate, and that was his trust towards Juzi. Juzi nodded and said, we are already prepared and ready to go. Everything is progressing according to plan. Xu Qianran said, a fine fowl only perches on a fine tree. I hope that they are wiser. Otherwise, it'll really be a pity. Have Shrek Academy's team arrived? They are the current reigning champions. If the intelligence is right, it's the same bunch who became champions the other time competing this time. If this is the case, it's likely that they will become champions again. It's a pity that it'll be very difficult for me to use them. Juzi seemed to be jolted. She clearly remembered that Hu Yuhao was part of the team from Shrek. The group from the Tang sect landed about 100 kilometers from Radiant City. If they ventured any further forward, they would enter the borders of Radiant City. As the capital of the greatest soul engineering empire, they might become practice targets of the city's defense system if they dared to violate the airspace of the city. They didn't meet with any danger on their journey here, and had arrived after only half a day of travel. They started a fire for cooking. Although everyone missed Hu Yuhao's cooking, they couldn't let a disabled person cook for them. Jiang Nan, Xiao Xiao, and Wang Donga took on the responsibility as cooks. As for Jing Ziyan, even though she was also a lady, besides wielding blades and spears, she didn't know anything about cooking. She could only act as an assistant to the 3 chefs. Jiang Nan was the best at cooking among the 3. Although Wang Donga had learned from Hu Yuhao for a few days, she didn't pick up much. Hu Yuhao had heard Shusansha mention that Jiang Nan was from a poor family. She had thus matured young, and was good at carrying out household chores. It turned out to be true. They had prepared sufficiently before they set out for this tournament, bringing quite a lot of ingredients. With Hu Yuhao around, they weren't worried about the freshness of the ingredients, since he was the owner of ultimate ice soul power. Hu Yuhao was fed by Wang Donga. Of course, she fed him with a spoon, and not through her mouth. After all, there were many people around. Before everyone got up to take a look, the familiar power of Hu Yuhao's spiritual detection was unleashed. An image surfaced in everyone's minds. While Hu Yuhao's spiritual detection presented a detailed image to everyone, it was still unable to project any color. While they were far away, the image in their minds was still very clear. It was a cavalry regiment. There were 14 people in total, and they were all dressed in black warrior robes. Their steeds weren't ordinary, either. They were taller than most horses, and more than 4 meters in length, with a shoulder height around 1 meter and 80 centimeters. They were extremely large and muscular. The strange thing was that these steeds didn't have hair, only a layer of fine scales. Every steed also had a bulging protrusion on its head. Jing Ziyan couldn't help but say, those are horn-scale horses. They are really rich. Horn-scale horses weren't related to normal horses. They were soul beasts. They weren't good at offense, but their defensive strength was rather high. They possessed 2 innate soul skills, black-scale armor and heavenly horn barrier. Such soul beasts usually appeared in herds, because they weren't good at fighting. That was also why they rarely appeared in soul beasts' forests. They mainly lived in the grasslands. Their lack of fighting strength meant that they were compensated in other areas. Horn-scale horses had great endurance, around 3 times that of ordinary horses. They were also very quick. When they moved, even at a full gallop, they could also unleash their heavenly horn barrier to protect themselves and reduce wind resistance. All of the men were riding horn-scale horses. Their leader, who was an elder, was even riding a 100-year horn-scale horse. It wasn't exaggerated to claim that they were rich. Horn-scale horses were indeed very quick. In a matter of seconds, the cavalry regiment quickly appeared in front of Shrek's 7 monsters. Shrek's 7 monsters had chosen a good spot to rest. The ground was level, but elevated. The view was great, and there were even a few huge trees around. It was very cool as they took shade under the trees. The fragrance from their meat soup also made the entire atmosphere feel more rustic. The cavalry regiment quickly discovered them, and the elder lifted his hand, stopping the others behind him. The entire team was evidently very organized. The riders also coordinated well with their horses. The elder slowly rode up to them and smiled. He asked, "Greetings all. Are all of you going to compete in the tournament?" Seeing that the other party was being very ceremonious, Bei stood up and walked a few steps forward before replying, "Yes, we are from the Tang sect. We are going to Radiant City for the tournament." The Tang sect? The elder was stunned. He didn't seem to have a deep impression of the sect in his mind. It took him some time before he recalled, "Oh, it's a very ancient sect. We are from the Heavenly Armor sect. We are also here for the tournament. We are tired from rushing on our journey. May we rest here too?" "Don't worry, we won't disturb all of you." Bei smiled and replied, "Of course you can. We still have some meat soup that we cooked. If you don't mind, we can share it with all of you." The elder laughed and said, "That would be great. Everyone, dismount." As he spoke, he leapt off from his horse first. Shusansha was watching carefully from one side. He chortled when he saw their faces turn red, and stopped them monitoring further. They were really inexperienced. Bei was already conversing with Han Zhanhu. "I'm the eldest senior of the Tang sect. Greetings to elder." Bei's refined appearance was very likable. When Han Zhanhu discovered that he was the leader of the Tang sect, he was stunned. "So you are Master Bei. Apologies for the disrespect." No matter how strong the Tang sect was now, it was still an ancient sect. Han Zhanhu became more formal with his words. Han Zhanhu had to be a senior figure from the Heavenly Armor sect. He was a tall and mighty man. His aura was pressing too. As he gestured, he seemed awe-inspiring. Hu Yuhao sat on the golden tree wheelchair and observed these people. Although they only just interacted, he managed to make some deductions. First, the Heavenly Armor sect was obviously not from the Sun Moon Empire. That was because they were riding horses. One of the tournament's stipulations was that the competing teams needed to have at least 5 members who had 4 or more soul rings. 4-ringed soul masters could use flying-type soul tools. If they were from the Sun Moon Empire, it wouldn't make sense that they didn't use soul tools. From the horn-scale horses they rode, it was more likely that they came from the Heavenly Soul Empire. That was because the Heavenly Soul Empire was famous for producing such soul beasts. Part 2 end here.